Hi guys, welcome back to my review of Innovator 16 by XP Pen. This is the second part. In the first part we did unboxing and my extended first impressions that pretty much covered all kinds of aspects about the device. So I'm gonna be just adding on top of that. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out there and let's start. So the first thing you guys said that I was wrong about in the first video is about these 3-in-1 cables that come with this type of drawing displays. It's a very convenient, with Innovator 16 it's a Type-C cable, so you just plug in one thing. It's very clean and simple right here. I mentioned that I was reviewing a different device from a different brand and the cable broke and there's no way to replace it because where do you find a cable like that? Well, you guys said that you can easily buy it on AliExpress or on an official website of the manufacturer. I looked it up, it's true. So we just go Innovator 16 cable, store XP Pen, Co UK, so a British website I suppose. There it is, this is my cable. Right here. So yeah, there's that on the availability of the only potentially fragile part of the device. And overall, so far, it's showing itself very reliable. Like, no problem with the connection. Like, here I am tweaking the cable a little bit. Type-C connection is reliable in general. Of course, I would need a lot more time to actually test the durability of it, but hey, at least you can replace it pretty easily. So someone asked how long is this cable? I measured it, it's 120 centimeters. And don't forget, you're getting an extension for the power supply. Oh, it's a good extension, a bit longer than a meter as well. Now, next question you guys had, something I forgot to mention, lefty mode. As you can see, I'm using it right now in lefty mode, so actually I would be using the glove on my left hand. So the glove is symmetrical, the pen is symmetrical, and the tablet is symmetrical. So right now all the buttons the same way on the right side. The only difference is, of course, that the cable is right under my hand that is supposed to be using the buttons. Probably may reduce the longevity of this cable if you constantly tweak it around by moving the hand around. You can plug in the cable downwards, so it would just go away like this right away, but you would still be kind of touching it, I guess. So the form factor is a little bit more comfortable for right-handed people. By the way you apply the left-handed mode, so right here in the settings of your tablet, go to display settings and you switch the rotation. Flip it 180 degrees. Next question. Several people asked me if you can just use a simple Type-C to Type-C cable to connect Innovator 16 to a laptop, I suppose. Well, I tried it. I can't say I guarantee that I did everything correctly, but in my case it didn't work. I do have a Type-C port in my desktop computer, and I used a Type-C to Type-C cable from my Pixel phone, which provides fast charging and data transfer, so theoretically it would work, but it didn't. So that's what I can say. It didn't work when I tried it. So you can only use this 3-in-1 cable. One thing to note though, you can actually not plug in the power part of the cable. You can only plug in the HDMI and the USB for data transfer into your computer, and that's it. In that case, the display will be like 50% darker or something. Like, it's still very much usable. Let me show it to you. I don't know, you can't really see the proper brightness of the display as it is right now. Oh, that's interesting. When you're using it in lefty mode, doesn't matter if I rotated the display image, the controls are still upside down. So anyway, you saw it, right? It was in 100% brightness. Right now I'm gonna unplug the power part of the cable. And there you go. I don't know what happened, it looks dimmer, still showing 100%, but it looks a lot darker. That's a bit nicer. So now I'll talk about a couple of things that I noticed on top of what I said in the first video. The ring, generally it's all turned off right now because, as I said before, I don't like using it, but I did try it in real work. I set up all the buttons to do certain things. One thing I noticed is the positioning of this physical ring is not ideal. Something that actually bothered me while I was trying it, and I think it might bother a lot of people as well. The problem is that the ring is super easy to spin. It has no ratchet mechanism or anything, something that a scroll wheel on a mouse would have, like steps. In here, nothing like that. It's absolutely easy, like you just touch it a little bit and it spins already. The problem is that the ring is exactly between the two groups of the buttons, and when you're working around, you would be like pressing a button and wanna press another button at the top, and you'll just accidentally spin the wheel all the time. It happened more than once for sure. It wasn't the case with the touch ring, but the physical ring is just, like, it's not exactly thick, but it is sticking out like a dial, a real thing that you can spin like this with fingers. It's really in the way. You don't want to like lift your fingers a lot to avoid it, you know? So you will be lifting it very low, and sometimes you'll just accidentally spin it. Next thing I noticed, the stand that comes in the box. I said that while it is a basic one, it just has one level and it's pretty low. Then I noticed that it's a bit higher than I expected, but yeah, it's really low. I wasn't using it with this stand at all. I was using the stand that I was using with my iPad before that has all kinds of angles. You can find all kinds of different stands online and replace it. It's not gonna be expensive at all. I gotta say, this basic stand is great for using this tablet like this. You can actually use it like this. You can set it up so this Innovator 16 display would just mirror the image of your main display. So you would have the same stuff on both displays. And then you just turn off this one and you can use it and see the cursor working there. It actually works like this. This is just the button to turn off the display. So the tablet keeps working and all the buttons keep working. An option. I used it a couple of times like this, since I do prefer drawing on screen-less displays. It's better for your spine and neck and whatever. But yeah, most of the times I still use this display just because, well, it's a lot brighter and has much better colors, much more saturated gamma than this display that you see me using all the time. Innovator 16 has much better colors. It's actually a really good display. Someone asked in the comments, like, is it calibrated or how good is the color precision? I can't tell you any numbers. I don't have a color calibrator device thingy or whatever. Just judging with my somewhat trained eye, I gotta say the colors are generally good. If you're like a Hollywood movie color grader guy, then what are you even doing watching this video? Go buy some $5,000 device or something. This one has zero problems with colors. The color representation is really good. One thing that I would maybe wish for is a bit of a higher resolution for a display that you work on. Like this, especially like after iPad, I would prefer this to be like QHD 2560 by 1440, but it is just a full HD display. But again, as I said before, the resolution is totally fine. You can distinguish every separate pixel, but you don't notice a lot of black grid in between the pixels or something like that. It's just about enough. The pixel density is fine for work, especially in Windows interfaces. It's generally a good idea to have the density low enough so you would actually distinguish separate pixels. 16-inch is the biggest display that makes any sense with Full HD. And yeah, the colors, the brightness are just awesome. I think they're just right. Another thing in terms of form factor, the stand that is a part of the case for the pen, right? So you unscrew it and you then use this part as a stand. It has this thing inside that is covered with rubber that is actually in contact with the pen when you put it in. I'm not sure why they did that, because just putting it in, if you just apply a little bit of force, then this happens. Of course it happens because rubber sticks to it. Anyway, this is such a small detail, doesn't matter. Yeah, next thing, something I learned about from one of Brad Colbo's videos. He was reviewing some other drawing display, I don't remember which one, but he noticed that it's a common thing for the first nib on the pen to get completely destroyed in just a few days, and then you replace it with another nib, and that nib will totally work for a while. That's because the coating, this sandy textured surface of display, it gives a little bit of texture or something like that, so it's nicer to work on. And that coating is a bit too sharp and raw when it's just out of the box, so the first nib will scratch on it too much. But after a few days of work, it becomes normal, and that doesn't happen anymore. I used this second nib much longer than the first one already, and, well, I can't even tell that it's been used. Don't freak out if your first nib gets destroyed really fast. It's just the first one. Yeah, about color accuracy, one more thing. In the first video, I mentioned that the setting, I believe this mode was by default, if I press default. Oh my god, now I forgot the settings I used to have. God damn it. But yeah, this was the settings, right? Brightness 50%. And I used this mode because it looked a bit better, but it's actually also wrong. All of these modes are wrong. I don't like this kind of settings at all. sRGB looks a bit better, but it's really dark too. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit more precise in terms of just proper colors. But what I noticed, you should better just use user mode and then set it up. I think it was like 40, 47, 48 in here, and 15 here, something like that. And yeah, brightness at 100. Yeah, this looks about right. These colors seem to be appropriate. Oh yeah, one more thing that happened in the first video. Remember, I had a huge problem registering the brushstrokes in PaintStorm Studio when Windows Ink was on? Well, right now, either it's a Windows update that happened recently on my device, or did I forget to reboot my system after I installed drivers for Innovator 16 on my device. But right now, it works just fine in PaintStorm Studio. It's a perfect performance of the pen with Windows Ink on. The performance of the pen is great, that's what I want to say. I was very anxious about the performance of the pen in terms of tilt and in terms of the pen not registering a super slight touch. Well, the tilt, I was using it extensively on this artwork right here and on other pages of the book. I'm using this pen that is using the tilt a lot, so it's all kinds of controls for it. It does have this delay, like the tilt reacts a bit slower than I'm used to on Wacom, but during work I never even thought of it. It was not a problem ever. One time I remember I was drawing and like, wait, shouldn't the brushstroke become less tilted or something right now? And then I realized, oh, I was really close to the edge of the display where it doesn't register the tilt, but it happened like once. Really, the fact that the tilt doesn't work 1 inch away from the edge is not that big of a deal apparently, just because it's not gonna ruin your brushstroke. It's just gonna stop updating the angle of the tilt. It's not a huge problem. And about the slight touch not registering, that's not existent at all. It's so not a problem. I forgot about it at all, only remembered about it when I was reading my notes. It's hard to explain in words on video how little that issue is. It's a technical difference between Wacom pen and this pen. If you want to know my opinion, it's never an issue, so you can totally work just fine. The tilt is definitely not ideal. What I was worried about is that I would have to like not use tilt when I'm working on the book or something. I didn't have to turn it off at all. It did its job for sure. Maybe it was a little bit less instant and I felt a little bit disconnected from the tool, you know? So I'll probably feel the improvement about it when I'll go back to my Intuos 4. But to my surprise, when you're actually working, you can totally use this tilt. It works just fine. It's weird how little things we actually need to really work. I think the biggest thing that the drawing display like this needs to get right is the display itself. And it has it right. It's a really good display. I really like it. Oh right, one last thing. Yeah, the pen is not ideal. God damn it, I should have said this earlier, I guess. One of you guys in the comments said that XP Pen and other Chinese brands' pens have an issue with doing like quick dots when you have an artwork that is consistent of just a lot of dots. Something like that, like a sketch that's made just with dots. So you need to make a lot of dots really fast, and that's just how you work. I tried it here, and yeah, it doesn't work that well. Like if I'll do it really fast, it will be skipping like every other dot, I think. So let me use a brush that would be a lot more opaque. Now I'll definitely turn off the pressure control for opacity, and that's the kind of performance we get. Let's see what it looks like with quick dots. Oh yeah, this is really, really bad. If I slow down just a little bit, it doesn't skip at all. Like every dot happens at this speed, for instance. But if a little bit faster, yeah, it's like about how fast do you press and then let go. If it's this fast, like you're actually jumping on the nib, it might just not keep up with your speed of smashing the pen on the screen like that. So yeah, if you're working in this art style when you're just doing a lot of dots, you're gonna go insane with this pen. Let me try it with Photoshop, but I think it's gonna be the same thing. I mean, it's the same performance it was in Painter. So yeah, it's about the pen. But again, just a little bit slower, and it starts doing just fine. So there's that. Only relevant if you're into this kind of art style, or when you shade stuff with dots. It's definitely not gonna work for you. You should better go with Wacom drawing tablet. Oh yeah, another thing, quick hashing, another important thing. Some people, when they sketch, they do a lot of hashing, and like it generally feels just right. It's fast enough to do decent precise hashing like that. But you do notice some issues right here, and this, I don't know what this was about. Yeah, whatever it was about, I'm having literally the same performance of the pen with hashing with Wacom in 2S4. So maybe it was just me, or maybe that's where the technology is at the moment. By the way, I'm so terrible at hashing. I don't know, maybe it's somehow showing the precision of the pen, but there's a good chance I just suck at this. Yeah, I don't know, the surface, even though it's like textured, it feels a little bit like smooth. It's one of those sanded surfaces that actually work more for removing any friction instead of adding more of it. You know, if it would be a glossy surface, like a glossy glass or a glossy plastic, I would actually have more friction, like two plasticky surfaces would stick to each other more. But because it's sanded, the surface is more complex on the screen, so there's actually less friction, less stickiness between the nib and the surface. It's not even a sound, you just feel it when you're moving the pen on the surface. There's a little bit of this whispering friction. So it feels just fine, the contact of the nib with the screen. But when Nadia tried it today, she said on her very expensive Wacom Mobile Studio Pro, the feeling of the contact is much nicer, like it feels like actual glass or something, and this feels somewhat plasticky comparing to that. I haven't noticed that myself, like my previous experiences are not better than this, I think. Anyway, I don't think that affects your performance or actual experience with the drawing. Only like in direct comparison with another display it might be noticeable. But yeah, here are the testings. Maybe if you would be doing intensive sketching with hatchings and dots like this, it would show some issues that would be actually a problem for you. But with my experience of drawing some precise construction and a lot of painting with tilt, it just worked. Like, I can talk for a while about these little issues, but it's just fine. It works great, surprisingly. Like, it's not perfect comparing to Wacom tablets, but it's good enough to just work and not even think about it. That's my conclusion, really. So anyway, that was it. These are my thoughts on XP Pen Innovator 16, a pretty solid device with some minor issues in the pen performance and a little bit nuanced ergonomics. But aside from that, it's a very solid device for 500 bucks that you can actually use for real work and not even notice any problems. Thank you guys for watching, tell me what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Am I really that bad at hatching these days? Oh, when I shut up it becomes a bit better. Never mind, still suck.